Wishing you all a happy Women's Day and Holy Festival. And we will be having conversation with faculties of Cresta College who have added a lot of colors to the students' life. So here is my first question to you, Professor. So what inspired you to become a teacher?
I came into teaching by chance. It was not intentional. Currently, I'm doing my PhD. I will be done with my PhD in a couple of weeks. So as part of my research, I am a JRN scholar, that's Junior Research Fellowship, UGC scholar. So as part of my fellowship, I also got teaching assignment. So that's how I started teaching. So I never had prior experience because I never thought I would teach. One beautiful thing I learned as a teacher is how we look at students. So every time our teachers would say, you have a lot of potential, you need to perform well. We would never understand that as students, because in college we would just be focusing on fun or attending classes, not focusing much on career. But when I became the teacher and I was standing behind the podium, that's when I could relate to what my teachers would say. I would see potential in students. Almost, I think more than 90% of the students in a class are above average. Nobody is below average or nobody is a dull student. It's just that they haven't realized their potential or they don't have the avenues to express themselves.
So as you're into academia, I'm into research also. So how was your journey so far, and can you share some experiences, like what was that moment or that you experienced which was always cherishable in your life?
I would say evaluating assignments and answer scripts after exam, because while teaching we would interact with students, right? So I would know which student is active, which student answers or asks questions, and which student is abreast with current topics, current affairs and all that. And when we see the answer scripts, we will see, in fact, I could make out which student has prepared for the exam or not. There will be a lot of them who will just come, write the exam and go. So we can even make out that there will be bright students who wouldn't have prepared, would just come and write, and there will be a lot of students who wouldn't even open their mouths, like last benchers and all that. We should never judge students. That's one takeaway that I would say, and I'm very happy that I have been teaching, because I realized that we should never judge even a single student, whether it's a last bencher or a first bencher.
Good point.
We never know how they come out with flying colors.
So as you're into academics, what do you feel the role of extracurricular activities plays in students' life is one? And the second thing is into academia. As you are into academics, so what career objectives, like how Cresta is helping students to find out different career objectives with ongoing extra activities.
I'm sure you all are aware of this adage: all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. So I completely agree with it. There has to be extracurricular activities. So it can be sports, hobbies, musical instruments and all that. So they are very important, because life is not just about career. So as kids we would be playing even in school, right? So I still question that why after plus 2 they stop physical education classes. But I'm so happy in Cresta we have a sports arena, we have a basketball court and all, where students can take part, and they have even events where they can host musical events or other events where students can even express their talent, and that's completely important along with academia, because that's important for our cognitive development.
Correct.
So when you're happy, like they say, physical activity, right? It can be anything. So that affects your mind and brain. So naturally you'll do well.
Correct. So now being into this profession of working with students and also the same mindset colleagues, it is by default that you would have a lot of conflicts, right? Now when you address those conflicts, how do you prioritize them, and how much importance you give to them, and what will be your approach to solve those conflicts? Like it could be from student, or it could be from your fellow colleagues or anything. Like how do you resolve those conflicts?
It's a very good question, because in a workplace setup, it's very important, and I teach communication and media. So thankfully I know the role of communication skills in any field for that matter, whether in personal life or professional life. So communication plays the key role when there is a conflict. Firstly, we need to acknowledge that there's a conflict. it's okay.
Yeah, and embrace it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if there is a conflict, acknowledge it rather than trying to avoid it.
Okay.
And then another one is listening. So if somebody has a problem, we need to give them a chance to speak, express themselves,
Correct.
and we need to listen. And when we listen, not wait for a turn to give them a response. Basically, when people want to be heard, they're not expecting a solution or they're not expecting some response from us.
Correct.
They just want to be heard.
Yeah.
So that's how it is. So even with students, I ask them, because when we are a little liberal with them, when we open up that they can share their conflicts or anything, that's when it's resolved. It's the same with colleagues also. When we ask them if they have any issues, they can speak to us. Open communication is important.
Okay, from both the end.
Yes.
So what's your thoughts on NEP? As new education policies emerging, and colleges have already started implementing it. So what are the best changes you are able to see? And as anything which is newly implemented, it would take its own amount of time to get in a new structure, and a batch should come out of that, and then you will see the real fruits outside the market. But as into research academia that you are into already pursuing, so what do you think, how it would affect and help students for their better career?
NEP is a good move by the government, I would say. One beautiful thing about NEP is experimentation. It gives students a chance to experiment.
Correct.
Because I'm sure we come across a lot of CEOs and successful people, when we ask them what they would have studied in their academia as part of their curriculum would not be what they would be actually practicing.
Correct, yeah.
I recently heard that there was this person who studied hotel management, but now is into SEO and website designing and all. So they're completely poles apart.
Correct.
So NEP gives that experimentation opportunity and easy entry and exit policy.
Correct.
So you can study for a year. In case you're not interested, maybe you can just exit, get a certification or a diploma for that, and move on to another course. And then also this option of taking an optional paper from a different stream. For example, earlier, if for example I am from arts stream, humanities background, so if I wanted to study say coding or any other science subject, physics, I couldn't. But now students have an opportunity. So that is and if a science student wants to say learn art or literature, so that's a very good opportunity.
As you told, NEP gives an opportunity for experiment. But see, normally the word experiment is more inclined and very good suitable word for science background people. But how do we cope up for art and commerce students, and how that experimentation can be done in a real-time market? What would be your approach towards it?
See, that's the myth. When we say experiment, we associate that with science. Even when I teach research, that's what I say. See, we conduct research and experiment every single day. For example, now I'm in the traffic signal, or let's say I'm approaching a traffic signal. So the signal is turned green. So there's about 7 seconds. So I will gauge, I'll experiment that. I think in a matter of 7 seconds, I can cross.
Okay.
So it's like then, in that, how much speed, it all happens in a matter of milliseconds. Can I cross the signal? So that's experimentation. Or let's see, okay, today I'm going to opt this paper, optional, let's say radio, audio production. So I'm experimenting, saying that, okay, let me see if I can excel in it. Or if this interests me, maybe I would like to do podcast, I'd love to do audio editing and all that. And then this is how you do. So experimentation happens every single day. So they say, right, even when we cook something new or try a new cup of coffee or tea.
Good. One last question. As you come from arts and communication background, so why do you think that communication is very, very important? And the even big MNC companies or anybody who might be tech savvy, the one biggest barrier is they are unable to communicate better and enter into the companies. And people who come from rural background or tier 2 cities like Mysore and not like metro facilities and decorum around. So, and also why communication is important. And the second is, if they want to learn, like what would be a self-learning tips rather than going for an institute or sitting in a classroom and learning. So how they could start learning on their own. And the second is why it is very important.
Firstly, I will say why it's important, because if we don't know our why, we will not be interested in it. Yes. So communication is important, because if we don't communicate, it will lead to chaos. For example, I will say, let's say traffic signal again. If there's no red signal, if there's no green signal, naturally
Yeah.
there's going to be a jam.
Correct.
So that's how important communication is. And how do students learn, or students or job aspirants, anybody, professionals also, because as a communication coach, when I sometimes train corporate people and all, I see that even people at the higher rungs of a career, I see them lapse in communication.
Yeah.
So communication is just opening up. So when we say public speaking also, generally public speaking means people perceive that okay, you stand on a stage and address thousands of people. That's not what it is. Even in an interview, if you are able to communicate your skills to the interviewer, that's communication skill.
Okay.
So for students, I tell, if you cannot come to the class, if you cannot submit the assignments on time, all that you need to do is tell the teacher that today I've not been able to submit the assignment. May I get a deadline? As simple as that.
Okay. So to reduce the conflicts and chaos, communication is important.
Absolutely.
And the second part is, how do they learn on their own?
One is you have to be keen. That's why I said, if you know why you want it, then you'll have the interest. You have to observe a lot and you have to make effort. Without making efforts, we cannot get anything that's there. So watch people, read. See, in order to speak, you need good reading skills.
Correct.
So you need to read, and I wouldn't suggest read newspapers or anything. Read something that interests you.
Correct.
Maybe read the menu.
Correct.
Or listen to something that makes you happy. Listen to podcasts.
Correct.
Or I wouldn't say listen to news. Maybe watch some series. Or a good movie.
Yeah.
So imitate them. See how they express. How they express anger. Anything.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you very much. That was very informative and valuable for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, and I wish everyone a happy Holi and Women's Day.
Thank you.